If we have faith in our beliefs and if we persist in influencing others to understand our position, we may help to change the rules, to make them more fair and just. Hello, my name is Lauren Grace from the Rainforest Art Project, and this is the story of Paul Durand-Ruel, who through his kindness, honesty, and ability to play by the rules dramatically altered the course of art history and the way we look at the world through art. In the 19th century, almost all artists in France learned to paint at an academy, where there were very strict ideas about what was considered good art. During this time, the Industrial Revolution was in full swing, causing many changes in habits and traditions throughout Europe and the United States. Emperor Napoleon III was the ruler of France, and the only way that an artist could be recognized was to be selected by the French Academy to exhibit their work in the Paris Salon. The style of their paintings was called Classicism, and these classical paintings were always done within the studio and were very detailed and romanticized. There was a dedicated group of innovative artists who tried every year to be accepted into the exhibition at the Paris Salon, but they were repeatedly turned away. As more and more artists protested this unfair system, Napoleon III finally agreed to showcase their paintings, but not in the main exhibition hall. They were provided with a remote space behind the salon, which caused them to worry, wondering if anyone would come to see their work. It was called the Salon de Refuse, or the Exhibition of the Rejected Art. And on the opening night in 1863, they were happy to see that many people had come to view their paintings. Unfortunately, they soon realized that these visitors had not come to admire their artwork, but to ridicule them with laughter and insults. These artists were Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Alfred Sisley, Frederic Bazille, Camille Pissarro, and Paul Cézanne, and their leader, Claude Monet. The group was living in terrible poverty and did not even sell one painting at their first exhibition. The newspapers had nothing but bad things to say about their art, and it became so distressing that Claude Monet attempted to end his life by jumping into the Seine River in Paris. Well, at this point, you're probably wondering why people were so offended by this new type of art. These rejected artists had studied light and colour as no one had ever done before them, and they saw the world in a very different way than the traditional artists. Oil paints had recently become available in convenient tubes, making it easy for them to pack their materials and go outside to do their artwork. They loved to paint the French landscapes and the people of the villages. The art expert Louis Leroy made fun of their paintings and wrote a very critical newspaper article calling them Impressionists. He mockingly said that their creations were only impressions of real art. So the group began calling themselves Impressionists, and that name has stuck with them to this day. In 1870, Claude Monet met a man named Paul Durand-Ruel, who was an art dealer with a gallery and art supply store in Paris. Ruel liked and respected the Impressionists and began exhibiting their art in his store, where it continued to receive negative publicity. Paul Durand-Ruel believed deeply in the work of the Impressionists and in many cases kept their movement alive by purchasing their paintings himself. His store was doing very poorly, as his customers deserted him, questioning his judgment and professional ability. Through his continued support of the Impressionists, he was also becoming poor, and in 1871 his wife died, giving birth to their sixth child. He would never remarry and became a father figure to the Impressionists, helping them to buy food and clothing and even to pay their rent. In 1885, he would make one last desperate attempt to bring recognition to these struggling artists. He corresponded with his friend, James Sutton, who was the director of the American Art Association. Mr. Sutton had a hunch that the Impressionists would be treated much better in the United States, and he invited Ruel to exhibit their work in New York City. Paul Durand-Ruel went to work trying to borrow enough money to do the exhibition. The banks of Paris thought so poorly of this art that they would not lend anything on the paintings. Believing the art to be worthless, they would advance him money only for the value of the frames. Through his contacts, he finally raised the money and took 300 of the paintings across the Atlantic Ocean to New York. But this time, the reception would be very different. The American newspaper praised the exhibition, and people thronged to see the revolutionary new art. Within days, they had to move to a larger hall, and within several weeks, all of the paintings had been sold for top dollar. Through this great triumph, the Impressionist movement began to gain recognition around the world, and even in Paris. Some of the great Impressionists like Monet and Renoir would live long and prosperous lives, but sadly many would not survive to witness their remarkable success. All of them remained devoted to Paul Durand-Ruel and credited him with saving both themselves and their Impressionist movement. When the artists were in their deepest despair, Ruel would remind them that the challenges you are undergoing will be useful to you. It is adversity that gives rise to the best lessons. Do not believe you have learnt nothing in your struggle. At a recent art auction, Camille Pissarro's painting La Boulevard Montmartre has been sold for $25 million. And in 1990, Renoir's Bal Moulin de la Galette sold for $78 million. And in 2017, the Grain Stack by Claude Monet sold for a whopping $81 million. Indeed, the paintings of the Impressionists are among the most loved and treasured of all time, bringing great pride and esteem to the finest museums in the world. History will forever honor Paul Durand-Ruel, who through his integrity, honesty, and ability to play by the rules has helped open the eyes of mankind to the brilliant light, color, and sheer beauty of Impressionist art. This is Lauren Grace signing off with the Rainforest Art Project, changing the world, one piece of art at a time.